Welcome to my podcast, Actual Leigh. This is the continuation of last week's conversation. Let's dive right back in.
So then they hop into bed, the sheet goes over, and then they play baseball. And I'm telling you, it's canon.
Yeah.
It's full rendered, full color, official release canon. And I'm like, well, I
That's
mean,
funny.
we had
Well,
some
and a lot of those cartoonists they took part in was it like the Spike Mike's, whatever. There was this cartoon festival that traveled around to different movie theaters, and it was all like really just crazy shit. Like Mike Judge did it, the Ren and Stimpy guy,
Oh, nice.
and the cartoons were nuts. Like stuff like these huge penises and like little fairies that were impaled on them, and like just. So like it to me, it doesn't surprise me because a lot of these artists, they had to tone it down to get
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
to
it's
get
like
on MTV and stuff.
it's funny because my friend introduced me to South Park because he went to a college performance of Rocky Horror Picture Show, and at the end of the movie, they showed South Park. They showed the Brian Boitano and the Jesus and Santa fight, the
Mhm.
original one that they did in college before they got the Comedy Central contract, and then relaunched it with Brian Boitano. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of magical.
Yeah. There was like that era of pushing the envelope. And now, I mean, even like when my son was young, you watch like cartoons like SpongeBob. SpongeBob took so much from Ren and Stimpy. Like
Oh yeah.
you could really like like the scene where like SpongeBob's all kind of dried out and they sort of like zoom in on him and you can see all the gnarly details. It's just like, and like
Yes.
with the teeth and Ren and Stimpy and just and it's you could just see that influence, and it's cool to see that, and I
Yeah.
mean, there are a lot of cartoons that came out later that I really enjoyed. Like they're just really goofy and then just kind of have that vibe in it still. So it like I'm trying to remember, like the Fairly Odd Parents was really funny,
Oh yeah.
and Billy and Mandy's like the one with death. Um,
I love death. That was
yeah,
so funny. I'm just
he's
like, you
so
do not have
funny.
a Grim Reaper, a cute Grim Reaper in a kid. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Well,
Yeah.
a lot of people, and I didn't watch it, but Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Oh my God.
They
Yes.
said that
Obsessed.
left them
So
with
good.
trauma scars. Some of the
Yeah.
stuff that like we do not have dead spirits coming back from the dead demanding a tablet. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's real such a weird cartoon. It's so good. Like definitely in that vein of, yeah.
yeah.
Plus,
Well,
it's
I
just
did.
like this nice story. I don't know. There's like
Yeah.
underneath all the weirdness, it's this family and the love of the dog and the dog trying to save them. And, it's,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
And see, that's what I need for a story. If they had just a normal, ordinary family, I wouldn't do it. But if you have monsters, if you have aliens, if you have robots, there's a really good series on, I think it's on Netflix called Love, Sex, and Robots, I think.
Yeah.
Love, Death, and
Love,
Robots.
Death, and Robots.
Love, Death,
Yeah.
and
It's
Robots.
fun. The first
Um,
season was really fun.
Yeah. Second
Yeah.
one was all right. First one I really liked because I don't normally like those like one-offs and then go on to another one. But if you tell the story right, it works.
Yeah.
Um,
There was a lot of depth for like such short
yeah.
stories. They managed to give you so much to like kind of think about, where it feels like if you went back and watched it, you'd be expecting to watch like an hour long cartoon and then it's like 15
Yes.
minutes or something.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a couple of them. Sigourney Weaver, I think she was in one of them. She must have done the voice. I was like, tell me where the rest of the movie is. Like
Right?
you can't have a scene that good and not throw $100 million at it to give me the whole movie. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
There's some short story videos on YouTube. They're kind of old now. The Sigourney Weavers and some of them by Oat Studio, who is the guy that did District 9, but he went on to like kind of do these other projects and stuff. And they're really cool. And it's cool that she got involved in sort of like this independent stuff, you know. I'm like, it should
That's what
get more
I'm referring
attention.
to. That's
Yeah.
the Oats Studio. That's what I'm referring to. That's not Love, Death, and Robots.
And I
Yeah,
would absolutely
I
watch
get
the
related.
movies that that I was like, where is the, you know,
Yeah,
I want to
yeah.
see more.
I need to give.
Yes.
That's really a heartbreak. There was a really good series on HBO called Carnival. Uh,
Yeah, I watched that one.
Oh, I thought it was fun. I thought it was
Yeah.
fun because I don't think anybody ever explored. And the thing about that series is they never told you what was going on. You know, you're like, these are some powerful things, and here are some strange things, and things are going on, but they never explained the overall picture. And then they just went away after 2 seasons. I'm like,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
like, what do you do with that? That's story interruptus. What do you do with that? Like,
Yeah.
how do you resolve that? Because I mean, I
It
guess I could
happens more
imagine where
than
this.
it should.
It happens way more than it should.
Yeah.
And it,
I have to
yeah.
warn you, if you watch Raised by Wolves, it's
Oh
kind of
no.
like, yeah. But I
Oh,
honestly,
thanks for the warning. Thanks for the warning. I'll
I
prepare.
do, but I do feel like it's worth getting to be in that world
Okay.
anyways.
Yeah, I think that's the like I have two difficult parts in a series. When I first start it, because I'm adjusting to the world, and then when you tell me I have to leave. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, why do I like Preacher? I thought Preacher was amazing.
Yeah.
Um, just amazing writing. And we get to the last episode, and I'm like, no, what do you no, like,
Yeah.
no, I don't want to leave the theater, Get that curtain back up.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a fun
Oh,
one too.
that was. I thought I really like AMC. I think The Walking Dead lost its mind. Uh,
Yeah, I always preferred the comics. I just you know, there were some changes that they made to the characters that bothered me enough that it undermined the story going
oh, okay.
forward. There were some things they added in that were interesting as well, and I did end up watching because I watch TV when I craft, so I need
Hmm.
stuff on. I did end up watching all the offshoots. Like Fear the Walking Dead just made me
Hmm.
yell at the TV a lot. I was just like, are you so dumb?
I
And then, you know, but it was
yeah.
still kind of interesting how they like, you know, and then there's I watched was the one I watched with
Well,
Rick and Sean and just, we're gonna get back to you and love and things,
oh,
my family.
I haven't looked at that yet. I
And then,
haven't.
you know, and just
I skipped The Walking Dead world. I just couldn't do it. They're like,
I
here's a plucky group of teens. They magically are in the zombie world. No.
yeah, no, I haven't seen that one. I don't I just I put it on when I was doing other stuff. I can't tell you what the characters look like. I just,
Mhm.
you know, it's
Yeah.
just on in the background. It's the same for Outlander. Is that
Out.
it's
Yeah, yeah.
it's
I
the
think
time
Outlander.
travel romance one.
Yeah, I haven't. I don't think I've seen it.
It
But I know what you're talking about.
yeah, I've talked about it before, but it I've heard the books are better. I might read them eventually. The TV show's got some plot holes. And so I don't even like I know people are really into it and stuff, but I don't even recommend it to people because
Oh,
it's just it's just romance with really big plot holes and really long sex scenes that are turned up louder than the other scenes. So um it's
okay.
just like so I put it on the background and I made these strand scarves. Like I can remember exactly what I was working on while it was on because each scarf took me 40 hours and I got through like most of it working on it. And the whole time I was like watching in the beginning I was like okay, interesting time travel things and stuff. And then the plot holes started and then I was
Oh
just
no.
like
Just mad. Just mad at the screen.
yeah.
I see, I would get that way on Walking Dead because you could tell by about year 2 or 3 when a main character was going to die.
Oh yeah, big
because they
time.
became the focus of the episode from the
Yep.
very beginning. If it was a group shot, all of our characters would live until the end. If it wasn't a group shot and we focus it, no, they got maybe one, maybe two episodes, then
Yeah.
they're out.
Well, and like this was especially bad in Fear the Walking Dead. They had figured out some ways to survive, like such as smothering themselves in the blood, right?
Right.
And then they just stopped doing that to
Yeah.
create tension. And I'm like, come on. What
Yeah.
why? Like why would you why it okay.
Well, what was I watching the other day? They said the thing that bothers them most about apocalypse movies is that nobody rides bicycles. They said nobody rides bike. The most apocalypse-proof form of transportation. You don't need to find gasoline. You don't need to find a spark plug. You just need to
Yep.
make sure the tires are inflated and the chains are on. He said,
Yep.
and not a single one, not The Road, not The Walking Dead. He said, look at your next apocalypse movie. They got to find a motorcycle. They got to find a car, a truck, a tank, for God's sakes.
Yep.
They'll commandeer a submarine. Nobody drives a bicycle.
Yep.
So
Yep.
there is a certain the suspension of disbelief has to constantly be in the writer's mind. Otherwise it's you're gonna
Yeah.
lose us.
It's funny when I was a kid, I had like this whole plan for surviving if something happened. And bicycles were on my list, but I was like
Mhm.
very worried about the rubber of the tires aging because that's a concern. So then
It
it's
is.
like, well, you have to make sure that you get like the rubber and then you have to store it in something so it will last a little longer because it's going to degrade, right? It's like that's the
Hmm.
whole thing. And that's also part of the like that's never talked about in these shows. It's not just the gas goes bad. It's the tires are going to go bad, they start cracking and stuff. And even if you keep them like stored in a warehouse, they still age. It's like, when you
Yeah.
go to buy tires for your vehicle, look at the age of the tires when you buy them. If they're more than like blah, 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 depending on what kind of vehicle you have, don't buy them because the rubber's
Yeah.
going to be bad. It's just, you know,
Oh yeah,
but
you're right.
it's nenever talked about. And
Mm-mm.
especially on motorcycles, that's like the age of the tire is a big deal. Like, so
That's pretty big.
yeah.
Uh, a fun story about degrading rubber. Uh, my my father. I know that's kind of fun story.
Yeah. And then you start with my father. Like, are
My
you telling
father.
me your origin story
My
right now?
father, my father was a rubber salesman, and nobody would buy the rubbers. And he said, "No, my father, when he was very young, he had one of the original 12-inch GI Joe dolls,
Huh?
and he had it in a little wooden footlocker, which was so cool. Had all the accessories, which let me tell you, no kung fu grip, and a really realistic looking M4. I think it was an M4. It's a World War One rifle. It wasn't World War Two. Um, but somebody had bought the wetsuit for the G.I. Joe doll and put it on the G.I. Joe doll and left it for 35 years. So when I found the doll, the first thing I had to do was scrape 35-year-old rubber wetsuit off of a plastic doll.
It's just like melted on there, basically.
It was both cracked, disintegrated, and had fused to the plastic. So yeah, I got his army civvies on, but it was there's some still there's some questionable wetsuit pieces under there. He didn't get out
Uh,
unscathed.
oh
Poor guy,
no.
poor fella.
Wow. Yeah,
Stupid.
plastic does some gnarly stuff when you leave it to its own
Yeah,
devices.
yeah. It
Uh,
it's always funny because I love old things. I have too much of a fascination with old things. It's always funny to see when something breaks down. Like I put an exercise ball on top of a foot locker, one of those standard, and for some reason, either the heat or the ball, the the plastic liner on the foot locker is like peeling off the foot because of the exercise ball. Now, I would have
Interesting.
never guessed those two plastics would interact.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes me think of there's like this recommendation for storing sex toys that if they're made from different things, don't store them in the same drawer together
mhm,
because it will cause
mhm.
them to degrade. And I was like, that's pretty freaky. And how come that's not talked about more? because
they're going into the same person. Is that an issue? Like
no,
like
you just don't. Yeah, I mean, but you don't want those chemicals degrading in you. I mean, that's
I
yeah,
don't.
like
Well, it was a long one when it went in, not so long when it came out. Nah, That's
that's awful.
that's terrible. That's just terrible.
I mean, because they do
That's
talk about
terrible.
like not using like oil-based lubricants or whatever because it breaks it down. So if if what if the what you store them next to matters, that should also be like on the package or something. I don't,
Oh, it's very I just sat through I don't know where I saw it. It might have been in TikTok. Manufacturer of toys giving a very serious talk. She's like, "We only use quality silicone. Please do not store our quality toys next to your trash." And I was
Yeah,
just like, "Okay, okay,
yeah.
okay, okay,
Sound like
okay,
snob, but it's actually science.
okay, sure,
Yeah.
fine."
Yeah,
Uh,
that stuff matters. Like don't buy off Amazon unless you know the brand. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's fun. Speaking of sex toys, have you noticed a an overabundance of tentacles in
That yeah. It,
like a new thing?
it just kind of like all the last couple of weeks and it's not just about the toys, it's about like people telling stories about the toys, like getting a delivery and it's the grandma opens it and like stuff. Yeah. And people with
Yeah,
stumps making a thing and
I
you know
saw.
and the EMT was like making all these jokes about releasing the Kraken and all that, like yeah, it just all of a sudden and the thing that's funny is I kind of thought at first that it was because one of my mutuals, like Clowny cosplayer mutuals, is really into like the monster thing right now.
Hmm.
And so I thought that it was like them being on my feed was making, but that's only the case on Facebook, but it's happening everywhere. So I feel like it's just that's what everybody's like. Somebody was like, look at this, and other people went, I wonder what that would be like. And then it just became a thing, like,
I really think, and I think the other thing is that it's not dirty unless you know what it is. So
yeah,
like it is just a like I have a microphone stand right here. And and it perfectly holds the microphone. Um, it has never been used, but it is a tentacle, and it is just a statue of a tentacle. I mean,
yeah,
that's all it is. I don't want to lose your monetization. Can I show this? I
yeah.
don't.
I swear, I don't give a shit.
Oh yeah, you don't give a shit. So this is just your standard tentacle with conspicuous base
Suction cup thing.
suction cup, and oh, where is it?
Now,
I
and
have a little.
is that like intended to be a toy or is that intended for something else?
This is intended to go inside the human body for the pleasure.
Okay.
However, I bought this tiny microphone, and if you go into that tentacle right there, we've got a microphone holder.
That's amazing. I love
Isn't
it.
it?
That is exactly the type of thing that I would do with that. That would just because just
And
on
that's
principle and just have it just be there and people are like it
mm-hmm.
is it, it is that what I
It is.
think it is?
That's what I think it is. Yes, it lives in a little hood and it lives in a very comfortable area. But I think that's the thing. Is what is it? The phrase is anything's a dildo if you're brave enough.
Yeah.
Um, that's kind of the level of if you know, you know.
Yeah.
And but I mean, I saw that my friend who worked at Spencer's Gift sent me a picture. She's like, "You'll never believe what we're getting in, Toasty." And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Tentacles." I'm like, "No way." So so naturally,
It's the year of the tentacle.
well, I started seeing those everywhere, and then they started expanding the sculpts. So they have like the 3 foot tentacle and the 2 foot tentacle and the foot and a half, and they're in different shapes. I saw a rainbow one the other day. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. That must have been interesting pour when you put
Yeah.
7 things of like silicone together and then pour them all in. But
Yep.
yeah, just a lot of tentacles. A lot of tentacles. And I'm not mad about it.
No.
I've seen oh, we didn't talk about the anime. We didn't talk
The
about
hentai.
we haven't talked about the hentai. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
That was
Tentacle
that was one of
tentacle
my
monsters.
yeah, my first exposures to like imported anime was that, and I didn't know like hentai was like, I didn't know the word for it. I just was like, oh, this is just another type of anime,
Yeah,
and all my friends would get together and we'd watch it and laugh at it.
yeah.
And I was all, but they were all dudes and they thought it was funny and probably arousing. And I was like, that woman's being raped and I kind of
Oh.
want to beat the shit out of all of you,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
mean,
I'm like,
yeah,
if it's consensual stuff, that's
yeah.
whatever, right? But the non-consensual stuff, and that's the only kind I ever saw was that. And then I just was kind of like, mm, mm.
Yeah, it does. It has a lot. I mean, there's a lot in there that is very questionable.
Yeah.
Very questionable. Especially like there seems to be a lot of like power dynamic like, oh, I work for you and as your employee, I don't want to do anything to upset you.
Hmm.
Therefore, improper, and you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But it's yeah, I
yeah.
mean that's kind of the I mean it's an imagination type exploration of these dynamics that we're trapped in and it's like a lot of that is like is fine. I get it, but it's just the how pervasive the rapey part is my there's just
Very,
it's very
yeah.
problematic because it yeah, you know.
Now, I will have to say one of the more fun hentai I've ever seen, and I'll have to find it for you. Okay, so she is a mild-mannered high school student. Of course she is. Let's pray to God she's of legal age. But by night, she is a superhero that wears nothing but gloves, boots, and a bunny helmet and a bunny mask. And she fights with orgasms. And I'm telling you, she will jump at her opponent. She will throw her legs wide, and right in the middle there's a smiley face screaming. And she would basically latch onto her opponent, sometimes a guy, sometimes a girl, and the first one to come loses. And
Oh.
that was, oh, it was amazing. It was the most amazing thing. And it was kind of like, oh, so we're fighting, oh, we're fucking. Okay, cool,
Yeah.
cool,
Yeah.
cool, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to
That's
find that one.
that would
Bunny
be
something.
that sounds really funny. I would probably crack up at that. Like
It was magical. It was. I had very good anime uh teachers, friends that were in the know.
yeah.
And they brought a lot of stuff, but they were very strict subtitle. They did not care for the dubbed. They're like, nope, you
Yeah.
can't have American voiceovers. And I'm like,
The the sub versus dub thing the last couple years has changed because they've started getting
mm,
better voice actors and the
yeah,
dubs are getting better. That's not always the case. So for me, it totally depends on the quality of the voice acting. If the voice acting is good and the translations are good, but there are some that are just like Escaflowne was
oh,
particularly amazing one that was just awful and like the dub was really bad but the subs were also really bad. And so I can't
oh.
really tell you what the story was about because none of it made sense. Like,
That's
but the art was
awesome.
good,
I mean, it's like Aeon Flux. I never knew what was happening at Aeon Flux, and I loved
right?
watching that. I was like, this is great. It's 2 a.m. I don't know what's going on, but it's beautiful.
Yeah,
That
it's
woman
great.
is too thin.
Yeah,
Like
that
she's
was a fun one.
stretching. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't like weightlessness. It was like she defied two-dimensional physics, and she's just like, I'm gonna step here, 50 feet away.
Yeah, I always wanted to know more about that world they lived in because it was pretty crazy, you
Did you
know.
ever see the movie with Charlize Theron?
Yeah. It didn't
Welcome to One Word Movie Reviews. Leigh, give us the one word. Eh.
eh,
All right, that was all right.
it
Next
did,
up, we're going to be looking at.
it didn't stick. I don't remember much about it, which means I didn't
Yeah.
it
It's-
didn't
yeah,
stand out.
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought there was one scene in the movie that was very cool. The good guy that wasn't going to make it to the end of the movie had a laboratory that you could only access by putting on a special jacket. So it was exactly where they were standing, but it was in an alternate reality. And I thought that was pretty cool. I thought I liked that concept of like, I'm gonna go to my lab now, you know,
Yeah.
and like, and you take it off and you come back. So I thought that was an interesting concept. And they had some good CGI. I would
Mm,
say the CGI was decent. The story I thought was okay. She did have a main goal. I understood none of it from the cartoon. But I don't really think the cartoon was meant to be understood. I really think it
mm-mm.
was more of a what do you want to call it? It was more of a feeling, more of an
Yeah.
animated feeling. Um, and I get that from a lot. I like the I sometimes I like the trend of where they'll take famous audio clips and then they'll animate over them. Like comic stand-up comedy is popular for that. But people are doing that, every day on TikTok and they're doing such a
Yeah.
good job of the animation. So,
Yeah. I mean, there was stuff like that even back in the day. The one that comes to mind is considered like problematic now. So, but it's like Bruce Lenny or whatever, and
oh yeah.
they would play this animated short that was taken from one of his stand-up routines and play it like on HBO or something before certain movies or whatever. Like I remember it
Hmm.
would just be on because my parents would be like, oh, like go watch it. Like on the weekends when we get like free HBO or on the occasions when we got, free HBO when someone that knows how to do the thing. And
Yeah, the thing.
yeah. So um and I remember thinking that that was really cool because my parents had the record, so I knew what the recording sounded like. But then to see someone do like an animated thing over that same recording it was just kind of this cool thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like reimagining or remix or
yeah.
um I thought it was if you've looked into the Creative Commons and kind of how the Creative Commons has tried to identify the remix because they're saying like as you said, Lenny Bruce made this piece of media. It's probably owned by this company that, still pays to the foundation. So then how do you protect like we're getting to a point where a lot of our old stuff are going to be lost to the dust of time because the copyright locks it in a box and can't get it out.
Hmm.
Which is fascinating. Have you seen any of the new unofficial Mickey Mouse merchandise? Oh, fascinating. You know the copyright on Mickey Mouse ran out, right?
No.
Yeah, so that was one of the big things. If you look into Creative Commons, the reason that copyright law is so strict is because of Disney. Disney went and basically said, hey, World War II wasn't very profitable for us, so we need a few more years on the copyright. Because it was like the creator's death plus 75 years or something ridiculous or something in that neighborhood. Well, they've been pushing off and pushing off as much as they can. Well, Steamboat Willie, who was the original Mickey Mouse, is
Hmm.
now out of copyright. And a lot of people are doing things with Mickey that they're like, Disney does not want them to know. And it's like, yeah. So that's, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I think Disney should embrace it and should enjoy it. Make a
Yeah.
competition. Make the best amateur Steamboat Willie cartoon you can think of.
Yeah.
Um,
I just
I
I
I don't
think if
know.
you make something people want, they're going to pay you for it.
Yeah,
And all the other stuff that people do is secondary. It doesn't really like there's this idea that like people are going to take from you and maybe that happens a little bit with some things, but I think a lot of times if you're making a quality thing that people want, they're so you're basically just being like, well, we want to have control so that we can be lazy and be the only ones providing it so that we don't have to do the work to compete.
right.
That's kind
Yeah.
of what it vibes like for me.
Uh, trying to think of what. A good example of that would be what is a good example? Something that did vibe with you or something that did not.
Like
Mm,
that isn't
uh,
under copyright where there would be a lot of competition or
yes. Is there? I'm
well,
trying to think of like Mickey Mouse is a famous one, but I'm trying to think of other things that have like Ren and Stimpy. When will we see amateur Ren and Stimpy?
I don't know. I mean, there's
Will we?
like, you know, like Adventure Time. There's not really like anyone doing Adventure Time cartoons to compete with it, but there's a lot of like fan art and stuff like that, right?
Oh, yeah, that's
And
true.
and I love like the original cartoon and I watch it, but then I loved like the fan art. It doesn't like to me, it doesn't take away. And I know that's not exactly the same as, like someone say going out and making like an Adventure Time cart trying to replace it, but just like if you already have like something established, how is someone else gonna do that? I think it's, I don't know, it's like maybe with, I can see like with music it might be a little easier to get away with stealing stuff and kind of taking
Oh
the
yeah.
listener base or whatever, but with a
Oh,
lot, like
yeah.
with a lot of established like TV media, I just don't see like where is it really going to impact Disney's bottom line. I mean, I don't know if there's just something in the economy that I'm not educated about, or it just seems, I just don't see how it's really going to hurt them.
I think Disney's copyright is more so from the perspective of like Microsoft. Like Microsoft has active campaigns where they're like, if you see a coworker using an unlicensed copy of Microsoft, report them for a $50 reward or something ridiculous.
Yeah,
And that's what I think Disney was going through because Disney got to a point where like daycares would be showing The Little Mermaid and then broadcasting, come see The Little Mermaid. Well, then they're like, you can't do that because then it takes away from Disney. But you can say, "Hey, we're going to watch a movie," and then you could, of course, watch The Little Mermaid. But you can't.
yeah,
So I don't think it's like I don't think Disney is worried about being copied as much as they're just worried about losing money. Now,
yeah,
personally, as a creator, sometimes I wrestle with that. Like I wrestle with the idea of putting out an idea that's so good that people are just going to take it and forget me.
yeah.
Um,
I worry about that with my shop stuff, especially since that's such an issue for Etsy creators that you
mm,
have like the Temu shops and stuff that do that. Um, But it's like, what am I going to do? I either advertise my shit and hope for the best, or, like not advertise it, never sell. Well, I mean, I advertise it, I never sell anything anyway, but like, but I did decide not to do a TikTok shop though. I started it, I put an item up. It took me like a year and a half to even get my account to the point I could have my own
wow.
items in the shop, because you can open up an account and have a shop that you're selling other people's items right away. But you
Mm,
have to have 1,000 followers to have a shop where you add your own items. And then if you don't have a that word, not copyright, what's the other word?
trademark,
Whatever. Yeah, but if you
patent,
don't, huh?
a
Patent. Yeah, if you
patent.
don't have a patent, you're not allowed to assign your item to a brand. You can't have a brand without a patent. And if you don't have a brand, they don't push your stuff on the algorithm as much.
Oh,
And I'm like, well, that's
okay.
that's classist and bullshit.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so I just went, you know what? You don't get to have any money from me. And I just changed my account to a personal account, no more business account. Like, just not, you know, um because it's, but I was also like, when the one item I put up was like the little spoon keychain that I do, and anything that like was competing against it, like I sell the keychain for like $8 or something, which is reasonable for a keychain that's going to hold up for years. And it was like competing against these like crappy little tiny ones for like $1 or something. And there were like 50 of the exact same one from all these different, it was just like Timu, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I can't compete with that. I can't, I'm making like a real item that I hand make myself. Like I can't, price wise, I can't compete with that. Like, and And either people are going to know, like, want something quality, or they're going to buy trash. And I don't even want to put the work into that. I'm just put it somewhere else.
Well, I was trying to explain to my mom the other day. I said, there has to be something wrong when it's cheaper to ship a product from literally the other side of the world than to get it from your neighbor. Like, where are the plastic manufacturing in America? Where are our factories that make, electronics? And something there's a missing piece.
Hmm.
And I have a feeling that very well documented is that it's the exploitation of workers, and it's also the obfuscation, there's the 10-cent word, obfuscation of the real cost of what things are.
Yeah.
They're hiding it. Um,
Yep.
I can't charge you $10 for a dollar piece of plastic if you know that it's a dollar piece of plastic. But if I ship it around the world, you think, oh, $10 isn't bad.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
yeah,
And
so yeah.
it's the exploitation, and the difference in, like, because we tax and have all the, it's just so much more expensive to have the business here and to have the employees here. And yeah, it's a mess, and it's awful because it's all about maximizing profits for people who do not care about the impact of what they're doing. They just
Yeah.
care about that bottom line for them. And we've gotten so used to it, and it's so pushed on us. I mean, I don't know, like Amazon a couple years ago, if you were to go search for something, your search results, the first like 3 pages or whatever, you would get like a lot of like knockoff brands. But you would also like dehumidifiers. Let's say we're searching for dehumidifiers. You would also get like name brands like Frigidaire and stuff. Now, if you search for a dehumidifier, you're not going to see the Frigidaire one. They do sell it there, but you're not ever going to see it in the search results. And you're only going to see these knockoff ones, most of which are advertised to be like these like little ones that, blah, and they don't actually work. And so they're sort of banking on people buying it and then being too lazy to return it,
Yeah.
right? And they know it doesn't work. It's just the technology cannot work. You have to have the air conditioning refrigerator thing unit in order to effectively pull, you know,
Oh
water
yeah.
out of the air. And these do not have that technology in it. They're not going to work, but most people don't know any better.
Yeah.
So like when I was looking for a dehumidifier, the first time I got one, I got it on Amazon, and I like buying stuff on Amazon because they have that you can get that warranty thing,
Oh,
so
okay.
you spend like $50 or whatever, and then your shit's covered if it breaks. And but I couldn't even find it this last time when I went to buy another one. I had to buy it directly from Frigidaire. Um, but not only that, but when you go to do research on to learn, so you're like, I want to learn about the TV. I want to get a new TV. I want to learn about it, or I want to get the dehumidifier or whatever. If you do a Google search, most of the results are websites that are literally like scraped together. No person made it. There's an app or a script or whatever that went and scraped Amazon and grab stuff based on whatever criteria and then put all that together. And so, like, it's not even real reviews. It's no different than going on Amazon and looking at Amazon, but people think that information is legit. And so they'll go buy stuff based on that, but it's all bullshit, like knockoff companies that are not going to be around in a year. There's no like, it's crazy like how much has changed and how quickly it's changed. And
It has.
most people aren't really aware of it. And so they're still shopping with the idea that they can buy like something reputable, you know? And I'm
Yeah.
like, you gotta know how to circumvent all the scraping to even find the real shit now, you
It
know?
is. I was shocked. I was shocked that the last time I Googled something, it didn't give me results. It gave me an AI summary. And same thing for Facebook. Facebook, under
Oh,
comments,
Amazon does it
AI
too.
summary. And you're
I
like,
hate it.
what are we doing? Like, I understand. I understand that. No, I don't understand. I don't understand Okay, okay. All right. I don't want to be a dinosaur. Okay. I don't want to be a dinosaur. And if you're telling me I will have more access to freedom in this world if I use AI, great. But as it stands right now, I don't know. Like I saw it
Okay,
tonight. Yeah.
yeah. So okay, so Facebook and the Facebook one is extra weird because it's about comments, right? And the entire
Uh-huh.
point is we're supposed to engage. So they're saying, no, you don't actually need to read all the comments that people have spent this little
Thank you.
microsecond of their life.
Thank you.
Like just read like and then we're supposed to trust that that's what it is. And it's basically telling us what to think and feel about comments that we haven't read. The Google, they're trying to give you sort of a combination of the common information that's out there and save you time. I get where they're coming from. I still don't like I want to be able to opt into it or opt out of it. And like there's some topics that when I want it is when I'm searching for how long to cook some salmon at what temperature. And that's the one time the AI doesn't fire because they want you to click on a fucking recipe and scroll all the way down so that,
Oh,
they don't,
recipe pages are the worst.
they're
They're
so,
the
oh my God,
worst.
and I'll literally, I'm like, how long do salmon this long and at this temp? And it doesn't AI me. I'm like, but you're going to AI me for thyroid issues, and the data is going to be literally wrong.
Yeah.
Awesome. Like,
Well, because they can't sell you clicks on the Mayo website, but they can sell you clicks on, oh, recipes are the worst. Absolute worst. It's like I caught a salmon one time with my aunt back in New Jersey. That salmon, we like to call him Bob, Bob the salmon. One time I bought one of those, and you're like, "Where's the recipe?" And you just keep scrolling and scrolling it, and you're like, "This author has been a chef. I don't care. Where's the recipe? Where's the information?"
Just
That's
like by the bottom, when you finally get to the recipe, you have had a complete lifelong relationship with the author, and you have realized that you never liked them to begin with. Like,
I don't even want your recipe. You're not a nice person.
I don't trust you. That salmon's gonna be dry.
That's not gonna taste good. You are the kind of person that would ruin my salmon and feed it right to me.
Right?
Don't like
Name
it.
your salmon and then you turn around and eat it.
It's
Like,
rude. What are you thinking?
yeah.
That's unconscionable. Oh, poor salmon.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
I
the
saw.
okay, so the AI, the other part, the
Yeah,
AI
yes.
on the Amazon
Mm,
for reviews, I don't mind it as much. What I mind is they made it hard because I don't mind like just seeing like a little, this is the overall reviews, right? As long as it's legit.
right.
But what I mind is that I like to search for keywords for
Mm,
stuff because for some things like dehumidifiers, there's usually an engineer that got it and then took it apart and will tell you exactly what they think of it. And that is what I'm looking for. Like when I'm looking for reviews from audio files for like headphones, I'm looking for engineer stuff so and they've made it like where you can't always search through the reviews anymore. They just give you an AI response based on what they think you want to know instead of allowing you to see the reviews with the key that have those keywords. And that's what gets me like salty. I'm like, you want to summarize shit, that's fine, but
yeah.
let me get to the data. Why are people leaving those reviews if you're not going to let me get to the data, you know?
Is it a I mean, I'm trying to think of the perspective from Amazon. Amazon wants you to buy more products and take less time doing it.
Hmm.
Does this re I mean, clearly it doesn't reduce your time because it irritates you and then you have to dig deeper, but I wonder if it's working for other people. I haven't run across anybody that has a favorable outlook of the AI, the Facebook AI comment summary. We're all kind of like, what's this? What are we doing?
Yeah.
Like
I don't even read it now. I've stopped seeing it. Kind of like the ads on Google. I just don't, you know?
we're still hot about the whole highlight and followers comment on Facebook. Have you been subject to that? Where it's like 75 people mentioned you in a comment. No, they didn't. They wrote followers. And because I followed them, every one of their followers gets it. And I'm like,
Yep.
turn it off.
I get that on my Facebook page because of people I followed, and I no longer if it says someone mentioned me, I no longer click on it. I just
That and see, that's what I'm impressed, and that's why I think it's an unintended consequence, is that by giving me this additional piece of connection, you have broken my threshold. I
yeah,
no longer care. Like when people on TikTok say, "Oh, so and so mentioned you." It's just so that it pops up in the TikTok live where it goes TikTok live mentioned you, and you're like, "Oh, who heck mentioned me?" And you click on it, and of course, nobody mentioned you. It was
yeah,
just a trick. And that, angered me from early on, and I at least trusted Facebook not to do dumb TikTok things. But this
yeah.
is a dumb TikTok
There
thing.
and they'll all like if you like a post or react to a post, you get a little notification saying, you've been invited to follow this because you reacted to the post. And then if you laugh at a couple of posts, you become a top fan, even if you're not
Wow.
following them. And it's embarrassing. Like, I don't want to be a top fan. I don't
That's a lot of pressure. I don't know
like
them that well.
I'm like I liked three things because once I liked one of them, that's all you fucking show me is this Brandon person. Like, you know, and it just like they're so pushy to the
Yeah,
point that like I almost don't want to have a Facebook page for my content anymore because I don't want to be inflicting that on other people if they're engaging with my stuff.
yeah.
But at the same time, having a Facebook page, I don't know that people are engaging with my stuff. I actually have people on TikTok being like, "Hey, I saw one of your videos on Facebook. My friend shared it." I get no notifications that my shit's been shared.
I have that problem with TikTok. You can use my sound and I'll never know.
Yeah.
Like if I post a video, because I do electronic music and I love it. And what I'll do is because I'm not a music TikTok account and I'm not paying extra, I don't have a music tab, so I just can't upload music straight there. So the workaround is I record a video of me drawing and then I'll overlay it in my UCut on my phone and then upload the whole thing to TikTok.
Yeah.
Um, Fun side note. The last time I uploaded it, TikTok was like, you can't upload copywritten music. And I'm like, well, that's fascinating because I just made it. Like,
Yeah.
copywritten what? I'm
Yeah.
the guy that should be complaining to you. And I have a screenshot of it somewhere. It's fascinating. They had a little gray pop-up thing that went through every single sound they detected in my song and said, this person has a copyright nothing longer than 7 seconds. This person has a copyright nothing longer than 15 seconds. So not only does TikTok strike it because you have it, they can strike it depending on what the artist wants. So you can go, they like about 9 seconds of my song, give them 9 seconds. 15, cut it off. But
Yeah.
and I was like, that's an I may have been misunderstanding it. They may have been saying from 5 seconds to 15 seconds you're using a sound that somebody else, but I literally use my own voice. Like, who
Yeah.
has the copyright on my voice, Leigh? Like,
Right?
I want to know that. I'm,
Yeah. And
I'm
that's one of the problems with using the AI to do this stuff to moderate is, they're it misses stuff and then
and,
you end up, I'm sure
and
that's
it
why I
could
got
tell
banned
me.
was because the AI
Yeah.
caught something and then I was never able to reach a real person. So it
No.
was never corrected, and it ruined it. Like I barely go on TikTok now because
Yeah.
it between that and the fact that nobody noticed that I was gone, I just kind of was like it made that all those connections feel really empty. And I just was
Yeah.
like, I don't feel like investing in other people that much there anymore. Like I have connections from TikTok that I've made off TikTok and we talk every now and again, or like I'll see their updates somewhere else. But on TikTok itself, it's like there's really no like I think there's just too much noise there. People are not present really to
No.
really be aware of that stuff, and it's not necessarily their fault, but also like words have meaning. So, don't tell me you're my friend. You're not going to act like my friend.
Yeah, it really is because you're right, because it we talk about parasocial relationships between fans and celebrities, but social media is creating parasocial relationships between us where we feel like we have a relationship because
Hmm.
every day I go on this app for a half hour and I see my friends there in the comments. That's a real big thing is when somebody sees us in the comments when we're both sharing the same video.
Yep.
Um, but by the same token, the reminder machine that you should have for friends is being maintained by the algorithm. It's kind of like Outlook. When I
Yeah.
was working in an office environment, I trusted Outlook. If you wanted to ruin my life, all you'd have to do is go on my calendar and just type up whatever you wanted. Because I will, it's like the teleprompter, Ron Burgundy. If it's on Outlook, I was doing it. And
Hmm.
that's kind of what the TikTok is doing, is they're saying, these are the friends you'll check in on today. And these are the friends you'll check in on today. And you're
Yeah.
like, yes, I
Yep.
will, and
And I was one of the lucky people that when people followed me, they almost never saw me. Consistently, people would be like, I haven't seen you in like
oh yeah,
months,
no.
you know?
No,
Yeah.
I don't see like you have to stay on the friends tab. You
Yeah.
have to stay on the friend.
I
Although,
only no on the friends tab, I would see the same five people over and over again,
oh,
over and over. And that was it. It was no like I that's part of why I did the support for support thing is because once you get into that routine, I would see way more people through the
mhm,
comment engagement stuff than I would by looking at my FYP or the friends or following or any of that.
yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. Just
Yeah, it's
I
a
always saw
it's
you
rough
though.
out there.
You're always all over. You have since we since we met. It might sometimes it changes accounts, but it's still like
So I lost my mind when I got a community guideline strike on Toasty Tentacle, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna take away my TikTok. I can't take away my TikTok. And I'm like, I've got emails at the wazoo. So I started Words or Lies, I started Pasture Purvis, I started Spellsworth, and I had some designs on trying to split my creativity between the accounts, stick with certain projects for certain accounts. But that didn't last long.
a lot of
But
work.
what's amazing is that my Toasty Tentacle account is garbage on views. Pasture Purvis, 1,500 views, 70 followers. Make it make sense.
I
I've
don't
got 3,000 followers on my main account. I can't get more than 300 on a view. And my 70 follower account has a 1,500. I'm
I
like,
don't get it. I have this mutual. Her stuff is great.
mhm,
Um, the last 2 years, she's been at about 1,200 followers. She gets she gets hundreds of comments on every post. She gets thousands of views on every post. Her account has not grown.
wow.
Like, like she just it's so weird, like the different experiences that creators have.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I got it to like 6,000. It took me what almost 3 years. And but my views were, I was right before I got banned, I would had just started to get into the 600 view.
Mm.
It had just started to get better.
Ah.
So, yeah, I don't know. It just
Now, I have found some tricks. I met someone, a TikTok friend in Atlantic City. Now, I don't know if it was because the two creators had their two different accounts in the same spot or the fact that it was Atlantic City and, rah rah Atlantic City. But both of us, her account is smaller than mine. She has a lower view count than mine. When we were posting videos together, mine doubled, just
hmm,
doubled, even almost tripled. And yes, I'm in a casino. Yes, there are lights and everything. But I knew there was something to it. I've always wanted to do that thing where a bunch of creators get together, make a bunch of stupid videos, and then just kind of, disperse
yeah.
again. I mean, it's got, and I know it's terrible because I feel like somebody trying to argue with you to play the lottery. Like, Lee, it'll work. No, you don't understand. I got this
Yeah.
great idea. I can beat the algorithm. You're like, yes, you can. Everybody tries to beat the house. You can't beat
Yeah.
the house.
Well, one of the
So,
things I started doing when I made my new account is
mhm,
because I joined these families because everyone's like, "Oh, it's a great way to grow your account." I didn't have
yeah.
really have too much growth on my other account with the families. I only had the people in the families following
Mhm,
me, but I wasn't getting like a lot of support or whatever. And I noticed that I wasn't really seeing other people I had been connected to anymore. It was like the families had sort of taken over. So when I made the new account, I was still using all the hashtags, let the families know that I lost my account, made a new account. And I didn't get a lot of support from the families. I got some followers, and it was like maybe 100 people from, potentially 1,000 that
Mm.
actually followed me from those families. So I was a little bit like, okay. And then the other people that followed me were people that I went to and said, "Hey, I got banned. Here's my new account." So I had about 300 followers and it just stayed there for months, no growth at all. And then I was reading this thing on Reddit about the way the TikTok algorithm uses hashtags. And most of people's opinions around how the algorithm on TikTok works are like wives' tales, right? Just there's so much nonsense out there that like if you actually
Yeah.
look at the pattern of things, you can be like, nah.
No.
But the hashtag stuff makes sense. And they were like basically like the algorithm uses the hashtags to organize your data into the algorithm. And if you have hyper specific hashtags that are not related to anything that people are looking for, it's not going to know where to push you, right? And so it's
Okay.
only going to push you to people that search for that very specific hashtag, which how many people in the families are even searching for these hashtags, right? Um, so I decided to just stop using
Okay.
all the family hashtags. There are like 20 of them, and just use like puppet and funny and fart or whatever, like, and I just do
Right.
like three hashtags and that's it. And I started getting followers. Not like a
Ah,
ton, but I started getting like 10 followers a day here and
okay.
there. And all these people I haven't seen since basically I started using the family hashtags started seeing me, even though they weren't following my new account. All of a sudden, these people showed up again. They're like, "I haven't seen you forever," because presumably my
Interesting.
puppet content is what they would normally see on their feed anyway. So,
Right, right.
so it changed it, and then the family started being like, "Hey, we noticed you're not using the hashtag," and I was like, "Well, let me tell you why." One, I
You
lost my
left the
account.
family.
Yeah,
Why did
y'all
you?
y'all did not support me. So I did a lot of work to support the family. It feels a little bit like a pyramid scheme right now. And then and two, my account, I can't even get to 1,000 followers. So I can't go live. I can't do anything. And I just want to regrow my account, kind of.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'll revisit the hashtags when I get to 1,000.
Ha
I've
ha.
decided, I decided, I made a couple friends and I'll stay connected with them, but I'm not.
I was never in one of the families. I was privy to some family drama though. I was following a family and they had a falling out between like the top
They
two.
get, oh, they
Oh,
get,
it's drama. It's drama,
yeah,
mama. But I think that's why they do it. They
yeah.
do it, it's what do you I wouldn't say it's playing T, but it's kind of playing T.
I just think
It's
it's what people do. It's one of the reasons why I never joined any motorcycle groups. I would ride with people, but I would never, they would invite me to join. And I was like, too much drama. Like if I'm not part of it, then I'm not part of it. So yeah, there was some tea in one
yeah,
of the groups
yeah.
between some of the, and I muted the Discord. I
Oh,
went, nope,
okay.
I'll check back in a week. And by then it had blown over. So, and they kept like wanting everybody to like pick sides and do like videos. And I was just like, I don't feel well. I can't make any videos right now.
Ah, look, no, I am the same way. I get creative spells. Last week I was tearing up projects left and right. This week I don't want to touch anything. I don't want to touch anything because I don't trust my heart with my art. Like
Yeah.
I want like shamelessly dropping a project I'm working on. Somebody I met through TikTok. We had a little back and forth and we were like, zines are so cool. They're so low quality, and it reminds us of the good old times. So he didn't do anything but slap 10 pages together and write a little comic book And he's like, "Come on, Toasty, you go ahead and animate it." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I screenshotted everything, and I made a little book, and I've got a little now it's in process. Um, but what I've been doing, and I never do this, I do friends only. I never do friends only. Yes, I never do friends only. All my stuff is like public view, but
Yeah.
specifically for this project, I've gone friends only. And I'll show you a couple pages because I know you were
Oh,
interested.
yeah, I am interested.
It's called The Ghost Town Grifters.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, this is initial artwork. Let me see if I can show you some things. Basically a story, post-apocalyptic, obviously. Here's some initial sketches. See, I've never done this before, but
Bring
oh,
that so
that's
we
not
can
going to
see.
show.
There we go.
So I'm
Is that a
terrified of this
duck?
project. It is, well, it's supposed to be a dodo, but it came out looking more like a duck.
A duck doe.
It's it's a duck doe. Duck doe. And there are 16 stars on the flag for the 16 territories that the United States has.
Nice.
So I've read comic books my entire life, and I've read books about comic books. And so what I'm trying to do at this point, come back. There we go. Is trying to do like thumbnails.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud of me. But like, I love this project. But Lee, if I touch it this week, I'm going to mess it up.
Yeah.
I'm going to mess it up, and I'm not going to like myself to the point where I won't touch it for so long.
Yeah. Do you ever
You know?
just like, when you have like these like where you get really hyper fixated and you get into gear and you just lose yourself and you lose time in like a project and then like later on that that drive isn't there. It's going to come back eventually. The drive isn't there and it's almost like being a different person. Like
Very
yeah,
much so.
it's creativity in this way is new to me. Like it's like we were interacting when that kicked in when I got my ADHD diagnosis and started the medication and then I started making art and making content and started doing all the stuff that I had never done before and I didn't even know that I could do it. And so it's like I've been learning to be a person in a new way that I hadn't really ever dealt with.
Wow.
And I at first I would get these like rushes and be really into stuff. And I'm very like, I'll bounce from things and then come back around. So I might do something and then not do it again for a month. But during that time, I'm doing a lot of other stuff.
Mm.
Um, but it's like I would get scared that I was never going to do it again. It was like,
Oh,
because
yeah.
I didn't know that it will come back. Right.
Right.
And so now I've started to learn that there's sort of a pattern to it and that like I just I need diversity, I guess, So I just sort of jump around between things and
Okay.
then sometimes I just take a break where I literally all I want to do is read a book or do well, I don't really want to do my bookkeeping, but sometimes it's like I'm more in the mode for that,
Yeah.
and then it's like it's just interesting because like um there's just this flow to it and there's creative moods and I didn't
Okay.
know there were creative moods, you
I
know?
I didn't know. You're kind of speaking words to someone that doesn't quite speak that language. But I like what you're saying. I like what you're saying.
Thank you for listening. Join me next week for the continuation of this conversation. Want to support my creative chaos and get access to exclusive content? Check out my Patreon. Have a great week.